She's a Mona Lisa. Everyone's lining up to see her. You'll find her beauty goes much deeper once you get to meet her. She's a Mona Lisa.
Hey guys, today I want to talk to you about my dog. But what I really want to talk to you about is how with this incredible story it can give you hope. So what I want to do is talk to you really just about my dog and what happened. And at the end, I want to show you a prayer of how you can extend your cat's life, your dog's life, your horse's life. And really, if you've never done that before, then that is something definitely worth sticking around for. I've been gone for 2 weeks, and obviously because it's just been a little bit too raw to film. So I did want to fill you in on why I've been gone. And I just want to thank everyone for their kind messages and prayers. They have been so well received, so thank you so much. So really, let's talk about my dog. My dog was called Daisy. She was 15 and a half years old. So she was a very, for a dog, for a Labrador, that's exceptional. Most Labradors live to about 10 to 12 on an average. And yeah, I mean, she was just such a star. She was so white, so pure. I've had a Labrador before, but I've never seen a Labrador that white. And she was just so beautiful. She had such an amazing, happy spirit. She always had a smile on her face, like literally a smile. And I didn't even think animals could really smile. But if you see now, like she really did just light up the room. So what really started us thinking that maybe something was wrong with her was she developed a cough, okay? She developed a cough which wasn't just a like a throat cough. It was more of something which started from her stomach and came up, and it was like a real movement when she used to cough, and it came from somewhere like lower down. Like we thought maybe like her lungs, or maybe she just looked really bloated. And we were concerned, and we went and got it checked out. However, even with the cough, she still managed to do her run and jumps with me. And she, like I said, she used to have good days and bad days, but this cough, she was kind of getting to the point where she was like dry retching, and it wasn't nice to see. Like obviously it was really sad. I got her checked out, and they said, they narrowed it down. They just said, just to speed the story along a little bit, was she needs to have a scan, right? And they could do this. She didn't need to go under or anything. And this scan, sorry, there was a little bug. With this scan, we would find the results back the next day. So what my mum did, which was really clever, is that she booked an appointment for 2 weeks ago. So not last Wednesday, but Wednesday before. And she wanted a follow-up for us to go through. Now, as I tell you that Daisy was, so we weren't sure what it was, but we knew that we were doing the right thing by checking it out. Now, just skip to me being in my bedroom, working on a YouTube video, separate to Daisy. When I'm like editing, I like to just have kind of like, I don't know, just music on in the background. And I had it on shuffle, and the song popped up, which I downloaded a while ago, and it was Gregory Porter, and it's Take Me to the Alley, and it's a jazz song. It's really soothing if you've heard it. With this song, I remember thinking that it has such a kind of godly pull to it, and if you've heard it, you'll know what I mean. It basically, the story of the song is people who are expecting Jesus to come. What they try and do is they kind of gild their houses and their roads with shiny things and gold things to kind of impress Jesus. But Jesus says, take me to the alley. Take me to the afflicted one. The lyrics which stood out to me, and this is actually really important for the story of Daisy, and the lyric is, which really kind of touched me, and remember, this was probably last month. So I heard the song randomly last month, okay? But just hold on to the fact that I've heard the song. The lyrics are, let them hear me say, so this is what Jesus is saying. Let them hear me say, I am your friend. Come to my table, rest here in my garden, you will have a pardon. So it's kind of like, you will have your salvation. That's what I read it as. Now if we come back to the present time of 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, she had a great morning. She was really sprightly. She'd asked my dad for a walk, so she'd gone for a walk, and then in the afternoon things just kind of went a little bit downhill, and she had a really bad tummy on the grass. So she yeah, like her bowels were not doing well, and we found that when she got back into her bed, she started shivering. Okay, so she was really chilly, and we thought, thank goodness that we've got an appointment booked to check up about the scan results, but also now to say, look, Daisy's not doing too well. Anyway, so we covered her with a blanket, and then it was me actually who went into the appointment. I think my dad was like getting petrol or something, and he said, why don't you go ahead and do this? And we took her, and honestly guys, like her back legs on this day were awful. We both had to carry her to the car. She really just couldn't pick herself up, and it was funny because I just kept thinking it's so good that we're here, but I also just felt like I had to ask my parents, was like, are they gonna make me make a decision to put her down? Because in my mind, I was like, she's fine, she's okay, she is good with me, we still do our run and jumps. She's having one of those off days, which I spoke about. Anyway, I went into the vets, and this is what's really crazy, that my vet's name is Daisy. We were appointed a new vet, and she's called Daisy, and my dog's called Daisy. So that was a little bit of a weird coincidence. She is the loveliest vet and looked after Daisy incredibly well. Probably like the nicest, she's just like young and really relatable and doesn't speak to you like you're an idiot. And yeah, just was so kind. Anyway, I sat her down, and she told me about the scan, and she brought me into the x-ray room. And you know what, guys, it was really strange because where I went was a hospital. So it's not just the vets. It's like if you needed, seeing to in the middle of the night and your dog was ill, you would go to this place as well. So it feels like a kind of real hospital for like humans. And yeah, they brought me in, and she basically said to me, Daisy has a tumor. And it's not hearing it didn't shock me that much, because we'd obviously been speculating what it was. What was producing this really big cough? What could it be? So she showed it to me, and she said to me, it's massive. It's not a small tumor at all. It is big. I'm gonna try not to get choked up. It's not a small tumor. It's nearly a third of the size of her heart. So it was pushing up on a curve on her, they called it the thorax. She took me back to the consulting room, and I just said, like, what are our options? Could we operate? Because you're like, this is your baby, and you try anything. So I said to her, tell me what would happen. And she was like, if you had a 90-year-old grandma, would you suggest that we do cut into her breastbone and take out a piece of her lung? And I was like, no, like I would never do that. And when she put it like that, it just really felt like that would be so cruel to have done that to a nearly 16-year-old dog. So we also didn't think about it, but like her aftercare for that would have been so difficult. Like imagine having like a huge stitch down there, and she would have had to wear a cone, and it would have been really itchy. And so I said to Miss Daisy, I said, look, what are our options? Because you're seeing her on a really bad day, but she's really sprightly with me, and she tries her hardest. And so we spoke a little bit, I remember, about like quality of life and measuring when you think it's right to say goodbye. Now this was really difficult for me, because she said to me, I'm not forcing you, but if you ask me right now, she said to me, I would have no problems with putting her to sleep today. So obviously when I heard that, I broke down, and And I said, I'm not ready. I haven't told my family. My sisters don't know. They need to say goodbye. So I was like, no, like, please, like, it's not happening today. And, you know, she was completely understandable. And I just said to her, like, but look at her now, like, when she's got like a little spark in her eyes, like, are you telling me, like, isn't it cruel if she's got the life in her? And she then basically said to me, she asked me a few things. She said, out of the 5 things that Daisy used to do when she was young, can she still do 3 of them? And my answer was no. She used to do like paw, she used to do little tricks, she used to do like that weird like looping around you, like really crazy. She also, like, she'd stopped barking, she'd stopped kind of being vocal, and she'd also stopped kind of coming over to you and like being by your side. So at this point I'd been in there for a really long time, and I just still needed to ask as many questions as I could, because when someone tells you that they think that your dog could leave you today, you just fight, you know, you fight for any other option. So I asked her, I said, what would happen if we left her? What would happen if we could, you know, just let her enjoy her last years? And I said, what, tell me. I said, be honest, what could happen if we did nothing? She said to me, because of this tumour and where it is, it could potentially start to push up onto her lungs. It would restrict her breathing, and she could potentially turn a shade of blue and collapse on the floor. And I heard this and I just crushed me. I just thought, I wouldn't want that for her. She would be distressed, and Miss Daisy told me, the vet, she told me it would be really distressing for her as well. It wouldn't be, you know, dogs are very intelligent, and they know when things are wrong, and they know when you're distressed too. And she said this could happen if you were out on a walk, this could happen if you were midway on the stairs with her. There's no guarantee. It is not, she's basically saying, like, it's not going to be peaceful. I said to her, look, then, you know, I tried again, and I heard that, and obviously that really did like sink in, and I thought, no, like, I don't want that for my dog, and I'm sure you wouldn't want that for yours either. And I then I asked her, I said, look, this is a bit crazy, but we're having our kitchen done at the moment, and our final day of the completion of the kitchen is the 5th of October. I said, could we wait until then, when life's a little bit calmer and not so crazy? And she turned to me and she said, I don't think she's going to make it to October. This is really hard. So something interesting, when I said, okay, like, you know, thank you for explaining this to me, we got her up. We both had to, like, you know, put her up onto her legs. And what Daisy did was, now I don't know about you and your animal at the vets, but my dog knows where the door is. She will stay by the door, nose to the door. She didn't take her eyes off the door. And at this point, for in this occasion, she was actually just on the rug looking at us. But when we picked her up, she didn't go to the door. She didn't want to leave. She went around the vet's desk and by the folders and by the cabinets behind the black bed that usually is in the middle of a vet's room, and she tried to kind of like hide herself. And we both, it wasn't that she was like, she wouldn't cower down, but she was just like kind of fixed on where she wanted to be. So I did find that really, like, looking back, I thought, that was a bit strange. Anyway, we got her home. I obviously cried and told my dad and my mum, and I just said to them, like, what Daisy had said. And she also said, the last thing Miss Daisy said to me, the vet, was that we should pick a date, because it's going to be hard, but you have to pick a date of when you want to euthanize the dog. So say, you know, go to sleep. Anyway, when I got home, we were all kind of on the same understanding that we thought it should be the next day. Because honestly, having a date of death would be worse. Like counting down, it would be so painful. And I've also realized, looking back on it, that Wednesday, I looked at my research in these past weeks, and Daisy was actually showing signs that she was dying on the Wednesday. So on that day of going to the vets, a sign of dying is your bowels emptying, not being able to, go properly, but emptying your bowels, shivering, which was another one. And you know what I think about that? I think, thank you God, because that you and her had chosen that day. It wasn't me. And you know what? It takes a lot of guilt off it, because you think she decided when she wanted to go. She decided that she was done and she was tired. And she was also in pain, and that pain would have got worse. So it actually brings me peace in a really strange way to think, actually, on that Wednesday, the day where she wanted to hide around the vet's table, that was the day that her body was shutting down. And however painful that is, it makes me think of the situation in a different light. It makes me think like nature took its course for that day anyway. So this part of the story is really where you see God in action. And however horrible this day was, I remember I woke up early. I was in her bed the night before. I gave her so many cuddles, so many kisses. I told her how much we loved her. My mum thanked her for the service that she provided, for the love that she gave, for how she protected us and was always there for us. She never hurt anyone. She was just the most incredible dog. And people would stop on the street. This is another amazing thing about Daisy. People would stop on the street and they'd go, "Can I please stroke your dog? Can I just hold her?" And we'd go, "Yeah, fine." And people would just talk to her and smooth her, and everyone would stop and say how beautiful she was and how she was just such a pretty girl. She had these freckles on her nose and these ears which were like softer than velvet, and people loved her. On this Thursday, another thing about the process of dying, which I didn't know, remember I didn't actually know this, is the lethargy that they feel. So she couldn't get up. So do you remember I said we had to pick her up and we had to take her? Well, on that Wednesday night, we carried her into her bed. Her bed was like state-of-the-art, orthopedic, Tempur mattress. Like literally that bed was insane for her. She loved that bed. I think that bed was nearly like 200 pounds. It was the best bed, and she loved her place. And when we placed her there on Wednesday night, she didn't get up. She stayed in a similar place. That's something else which will happen when a dog is getting ready or is in the dying process. They stay in the same position, and they can look a little bit distant. They can look a little bit like they're not interested. Even when we were cuddling her, most dogs would be a bit like, oh, excited, engaging, but she didn't do any of that. And you shouldn't try and confuse that for that they don't love you. They love you and they know that you're there, but they've kind of just got their eyes fixed to heaven. That's what I think of it. Their gaze is on higher things at that point. So on the Thursday, it was so painful, of course, because you're taking your dog to leave you. And it was painful, but me and my dad, we looked at each other and we were like, we should carry the bed. We should carry the bed to the car. When I say that she left in style, she left in style. She didn't mind us carrying her. So obviously the bed is like it's probably like 150 centimeters wide, like it's a big bed. And we carried her all the way to the car. And the day was perfect. The day was similar to what it's like now. Bright blue skies. We left, the appointment was at 8:30, not a single piece of traffic on the road. And my dad likes to have music on the car, and he put on classical FM, and I was like, you know what, classical FM made me feel really sad. I don't know what it is, maybe it's just like all the violins, I don't know. But it just made me feel a bit sad. And I was like, why don't we have some jazz FM? So we put on Jazz FM as we drove. Oh my goodness, that drive, I wish it could have lasted longer. I'd never realised how quickly, when you know you don't want to go somewhere, how quickly the drive goes. So it was literally, the ride was 3 songs long to get to the vets, right? So we have 3 different songs playing. Now, when we got to the vets, we were able, there were no cars. On the Wednesday before, it was packed. And I remember we were saying to people like, we've never seen it this busy. And I am so pleased that she didn't have to be part of leaving on a day when it was that busy and chaotic. I am so grateful to God that there was peace. We were able to reverse and back into the vets so that when it was time, we could lift her bed out straight into the vets. So there we were there early. We were the first appointment of the day, and this 3rd song came on the radio as we were waiting because our vet was 10 minutes late, which was fine. It gave us more time. It gave us more time with our Daisy. You're probably thinking, what was that 3rd song? And the 3rd song was Take Me to the Alley by Gregory Porter. And now how I can see God's hand in it, he was actually preparing me. And I'll remind you of those lyrics again. I am your friend. Come to my table. Rest here in my garden. You will have a pardon. And to me, when I heard this in the car, me and my dad both just broke down. We just started bawling. And it's really hard to see your dad cry. Like, for me, anyway, it's a bit of a strange experience, but it really hurt to see him like that too. And all the while, Daisy is in the back and she's just soft and sleeping, you know, there's no problems. And I was saying it would have been so much worse if she was like on one of her happy days and it was like, right, you know, we're going to the vet. Like, that would have broke me. But she wasn't. She'd chosen, and God had chosen. And God was telling me that she's going to come to my garden and she's going to be here and rest with me, and that he's our friend. And that's what was so beautiful. He was saying, I know what's coming. God knows everything. He knew when he showed me the song a month before, and he really can show you things and give you signs and hints which are appropriate, which are like customized to you. He knows that I like jazz music and he knew that that song he was going to use again. And that's what I mean. God can use anything. So he can use anything, and he used the weather. The weather was beautiful. Imagine if it had been raining and horrible. The song felt like my hand was being held. When it was time, we lifted her, me and my dad, we both lifted the bed and we took her in. And I laughed because it was just like, she was a queen. She was a queen even on her last day. When it was time to carry her in, something really incredible happened again. When we were there, she, like I said, she kind of had her eyes fixed on higher things at that point. She wasn't all sprightly, she wasn't upbeat, but she was just really comfortable. She had her head rested on the bed and she had her ear kind of flopped on the side and you could smooth it down, and she was so comfortable. Anyway, they give you lots and lots of time before they do it, and when they, you have to sign a few things, but when this was quite incredible because where her bed was, in front of her bed there were 2 chairs, and my dad was sat on a chair like looking down onto her, and I was by her head just kind of talking to her, just telling her how much I loved her. And I will never forget what she did. Now don't forget, she hasn't been active, she hasn't been up, she didn't even take herself for a wee or drink water for at least 24 hours. So when I say she was down, she was down. She didn't even, you know how dogs like know you're here and they can be alert and responsive? She wasn't doing any of that. But what's so incredible is that at this point, she suddenly, from lying here, went and lifted her head off her bed to my dad and said, get over here. She did it twice. She did it, it was so, what God had done in that moment through her and what Daisy was trying. Like I said, dogs are so intelligent. she was saying, don't you miss being able to say goodbye to me? And I want you here. I want to feel you on my body. So when it's honestly seeing it, like I said, she hadn't moved at all. So when I say that she lifted her head, it was so beautiful and powerful to really see. You know, maybe you're someone who thinks that your relationship with your dog is just, you know, it's just a dog, but it's not. It's not. And I really didn't know it until that moment, because she displayed her love. And by lifting her head, it was saying, I want you here. I want you next to me. So it was just, and she looked in the direction of him. It wasn't just like at the door, it was to him. And when he came back, she settled back down. Dogs are amazing, guys. Like, I never knew. Like I said, I'm a cat person, really. But I love that dog. And I just, I can't believe what she did. I just think that's the most beautiful sign. So now really we're coming to the end of this story, and I wanted to share it with you because, like I said, I want to give you hope. Hope that God will hold your hand when you grieve. God will hold your hand when you're making life-changing decisions. And that is the aim of this video, and hopefully in my vulnerability and just being, you know, just really, you know, sharing with you what I'm going through, that hopefully that you can hold on to this one thing which I do feel made a difference in her life. And this is what I do for my other pets, and that is that I pray for them and I lay hands on my pets. And you might now be like signing out, like, okay, this is too much spiritualness for you. But honestly, like I said, my dog outlived the years that she was expected to live. Despite everything that went on, she lived to such a healthy age. I mean, over 100 in human years. This is a very simple prayer. It's taken from the Psalms. So it's, Dear Heavenly Father, please preserve their life and keep them from all evil. And that is the prayer. And what you're doing with that prayer, you're actually taking God's words and lifting it back to Him, and you're praying God's promise over your pet. So when I say it's gonna work, this isn't some weird like voodoo. This is God's living word over your pet, and He cares for you. He also cares for animals. He created animals before He even made the first human. So if you're still thinking, does God even care about animals and pets, then read Genesis for yourself. And if you're also someone who didn't, like me, I didn't ever think animals had souls. My mother raised me to tell me that animals didn't have souls. And this is misguided. This is not true. And this is something which even herself today said, you know, I thought they didn't have souls either, and I was wrong to think that. And she actually heard it from a pastor. So yeah, we always need to just read the word and get the right circle, the right pastors, the right church around us. If you're still a little bit unsure about if pets go to heaven, then please have a look. I made a video all about scriptures about pets going to heaven, and the fact that they have that they also are separate from the salvation of God. They were never part of that decision or the will or the choice that man has, and therefore they are under God's covenant of freedom. They are part of God's creation, and they go back to where they were made. And also just be encouraged to know that God's gonna guide you through it. And ask Him, invite Him in. Invite Him in while you have your pets with you now. Say to Him, please let these pets go in peace. Let me feel you. Let me have you in these decisions if it happens like that. Yeah, so also I will add that my cats are the same age. They are 15 and a half. So, and I pray over them. So I know that God cares. I know that He loves our pets just as much as we love them, even more. So yeah, I hope you guys are well. I hope this message reaches you. So God bless you guys, and I'll see you next time.